Hello, Honors Pre-Calc students. This is Mr. Guzzato. I wanted to create a short video on transformations of functions. So we studied this in the Desmos, and I wanted to create a couple problems just summarizing it. So if you look at number 1, we have the point 1520 is on the graph of f. What would the new point be on g of x? And we want you to understand how to translate the point. We also want you to understand what the 8, the -5, the 7, and the 6 do. We added something to the My Open Math this year, or not me personally, but they added is where you can click Add Work. This is a new feature. Eventually we may use it where you attach a file, but for now we're just going to use this as kind of a teaching tool. You could even grab the little box and make the box bigger, so as needed. So I want to describe the transformations here. So that 8, and I already filled this in, so I'm just going to scroll up. That 8 vertically translates the graph by a factor of 8. So it stretches the graph by a factor of 8. What does the minus do, and what's that 5 do? So the 5 horizontally compresses the graph by a factor of 1/5. Some textbooks do say by a factor of 5, but we're going to go, it gets compressed by a factor of 1/5. The negative also reflects the graph over the y-axis. So that is true. And then the 6 vertically translates the graph up 6, and the 7 horizontally translates the graph. So here are the answers to what each of those values do. The 8, the -5, the 7, and the 6. And then the second part of the question was, let's take that point and translate it. So as in the Desmos, we have to think about the order of operations. So if you think about the order of operations, you would do the stretches and compressions first, followed by the vertical shifts. So I wrote that on the screen. Do the reflections, stretches, and compressions, and then the vertical and horizontal shifts. So if I were to do that, I might do it in the following steps. I'm just going to show you all the answers. Step 1, I might stretch it by a factor of 8. So 1520 becomes 15,160. I might reflect it over the y-axis, so -15,160. Compress it by a factor of 1/5 horizontally, so -3,160. Multiply that -15 by 1/5. Translate it up 6 units, so -3,166, and then left 7 units, so -10,166. I'm going to go to my screen and type it in to check it, so -10, comma, 166, close the parenthesis, hit submit, and it looks like I did that question. You can click Get Similar Question, and you can try another one. All right, same idea here for number 2. Describe the transformations and move that point. So what does the 10 do? What's the 1/2 do? What's the 7 do? What's the -5 do? You can answer this question and then click Continue on the video. I'm going to click the little Add Work because that's where I type my answers. So the graph is vertically stretched by a factor of 10. The graph is vertically translated down 5 units. The graph is not reflected over either axis. G of x is horizontally horizontally stretched by a factor of 2. So that 1/2 stretches the graph horizontally. And then G of x is translated 7 units to the left. If we wanted to move that point, again, we want to kind of use the order of operations. So do the reflections, stretches, and compressions first, as summarized in the Desmos. So that point, -28, if you stretch it by a factor of 10, you get -2080. It doesn't reflect, so I just left that alone. You don't have to say that. Stretch horizontally by a factor of 2. So then I think I might have a typo here. So the horizontally stretched by a factor of 2 is going to be -4080. Vertically translated down 5 units, so that's going to be the 75. So I got to fix this to be -40. And then it's translated 7 units to the left. That'll make that -47. So I'm going to scroll back up here and make sure I didn't have a typo on the vocabulary here. I don't think I did. Let's just check it. So parenthesis negative 47, comma 75. Close that parenthesis. And let's see, we'll hit submit. And we did that problem correctly. So on the screen you see the corrections. I had some typos. I fixed that live there. All right, we're going to do one more question. So same idea. If you have that point and that function, we want you to be able to describe the transformations, and we also want you to be able to move the point. So when you look at this particular problem, the first thing you should realize is you need to factor out that -8 in order to get the translation correct. So I'm going to make this box a little bigger. So when you factor out the -8, I'll scroll down a little bit. That's what I just said. G of x is 6 times g of, oops, that's a typo. It should say f. So 6 times f, parenthesis, -8, parenthesis, x minus, or x plus 5 minus 1. So then if I were to describe the transformations here, I already have this typed out. It's vertically stretched by a factor of 6. Horizontally compressed by a factor of 1/8. The graph is also reflected over the y-axis. In addition, it is horizontally translated 5 units left. Again, you got to look at the factored form, the +5. Don't look at the -40 in the original. And it's vertically translated down 1 unit. So if I were to take that point and do those transformations, I'm going to make this a little bigger. So the point 1049, the first thing I did there is I stretched it by a factor of 6, so 104.54. I then compressed it by a factor of 1/8, so 13.54. Then I need to reflect over the y-axis, so -13.54. And then I need to move it down 1 unit and left 5. So I combine those two. You can do it in 2 separate steps. So left 5 brings you to -18 and down 153. I'm going to type this in to check it, -18, comma 53. And I'm going to hit submit. And it looks like I did that question correctly. So I'm hoping that this little video helps you better understand the Desmos. And have a great day.